Hi, it's Tiffany Lorraine, the Resilient Mother, with another episode of the Resilient Mother podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about resilient identity and how to step into that for yourself. And my wonderful guest today, Renee, is all about that because she's about finding your voice and even has a book around that. Renee, thank you for being here and joining me. We've been friends for a while. We've met through Forbes Riley, and it's just been a pleasure that we've been able to know each other this long. Please tell our audience all about you and what you're up to right now.
Tiffany, thank you so much for having me. I am grateful. Yes, we did meet through Forbes Riley, a fabulous, fabulous woman. This has been a journey. It started while I was working with corporate America, and it is all about finding your voice. And I think actually it started before my corporate world because I was bullied when I was a young girl in school. And I think that was the beginning of not really having a voice because I never spoke up. And then when I was, in the corporate world, I was always taking care of everybody else. I was, a manager and taking care of multi-million-dollar departments and teams and never really taking care of the girl looking back at me in the mirror. So losing my own voice was not just physically, there was the metaphoric loss in life that I really believe manifested in my own health. And from that, I took that pain and turned it into my purpose to give back because I feel, especially with women, who don't speak up, we have the lack of that confidence. So we, want to be that person, be that vessel for others, but yet you've got to, like the saying goes, put your own oxygen mask on first. And I was really consumed with taking care of everybody else instead of myself. And so finding your voice is really coming back home to you. And the book is that as well. It became a 4 times #1 bestseller. I'm really proud of that because it's the work that went into it, and it's a workbook book. So it poses questions to the reader after each chapter, and it's my way of walking them back home, as I said, to themselves in their own journey of finding their voice and what that means to them. And so I didn't want to write a book about, she was sick and she was in the hospital. That to me is depressing. Nobody wants to read about that. I wouldn't want to read about that. But what you're doing with it to serve others and helping them in their own journey.
How would you define resilience as we're talking about resilient identity?
Yeah. So it's really resilience to me. It's like that bounce back and coming back from it like that phoenix that always rises. And instead of letting things get you down, don't dwell in that. The word dwell, it's like a dwelling is a home, right? A dwelling is where you live. Dwelling is where you're living in your mind also. If you're dwelling on something, you're living in that space. So rather than staying there and living there for too long a period of time, get out of it. And how do you get out of it? That's, things I teach when I work with my clients is the voice blueprint that I created. It takes you from vulnerability to empowerment in that journey of finding your own voice and what that means to you. Resilience is like a muscle. When you don't use your muscles, what happens? They atrophy. Is that resilience muscle is to start doing things by actions and taking the small steps, the baby steps that lead to greater results.
Absolutely. And I like how you said baby steps, because I think sometimes we think it's this big thing. I'm going to have this big moment when I step into my identity and I know who I am. And there's like going to be an angelic choir and a or something like that. And it's not necessarily that. It's not going to be maybe the big, not that there aren't big moments in our life. Sometimes we're celebrating that do change us. But I love how you're talking about how it's the little things that we do every day. Like there's little steps to resilience. And there's also a process to finding your identity and coming home to yourself. I love that metaphor of coming home to yourself because deep down, you know who you are. You know what your truth is. I think it's finding it and honoring it. That's part of finding your identity. And then once you own it, having boundaries around it to protect it. Because like you were talking about before, you can give yourself away if you don't set proper boundaries. Can you talk about boundaries a little bit with that?
Absolutely. And I love that you brought that up because I didn't have any. You hear about boundaries. There's boundaries in sports. There's boundaries in all these different areas, in the sports world. But what about the boundaries we set in life?
Yeah.
And, I always wanted to please everybody else. But if you don't set boundaries, You don't need to please everybody else. You need to please yourself. And that's not selfish. It's selfless. You got to take care of yourself first. That's why they say put your own oxygen mask on first, because you got to do that before you can help anybody else. And all I wanted to do was make sure everybody else was okay. Even in the corporate world, even, in personal, physically, I want to make sure everybody else was taken care of in business and in life. And at the end of the day, you deplete your own savings for your saving yourself. And you need to make sure that you fill your own cup and then pour from the overflow. So setting boundaries is really making sure your cup is always full. You hear the word no is a complete sentence. It really is.
Yeah.
It's not selfish. Say no when something doesn't align with you. Say no when you don't feel you're able to do something. Maybe you're not feeling well. Maybe, whatever the maybe is, whatever that is, fill in the blank. But if you're not aligning with what someone's asking of you, then say no.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a not yet as well. Maybe you're not in that place yet. For me, resilience means finding the best of who you are and being able to maintain it under all circumstances. So really owning that identity that you have, and no matter what, being able to maintain it. And when people really understand that about you, I think it's easier to say no, because you can say no by really owning that this isn't an alignment for me right now. And I wouldn't be able to give you the best of who I am. And I believe you would want me to be able to give the best of who I am to what you're asking. And so that also gives them the opportunity to go find the person who is the better fit, who is in alignment with it. And so no, it doesn't have to be quite so scary. We actually talked about this with the other speaker this month. So it's interesting to have that come up again, because I think we have a world that wants us to say yes to a lot of things. We're advertised to say yes to this and to that. And we have social media with, oh, you should be like this, or you should be like that. They want us to say yes to a lot of external, outside validating kind of things. Whereas really it's all inner work. If we all aren't discovering that now in the next couple of years, the last past years, I mean, with COVID and everything, where we were forced to be with ourselves and sit with ourselves and find ourselves in a lot of ways. And those who are willing to do the work are the ones that are thriving. I believe that's going to continue to be the work moving forward as the world changes and adjusts. So having a resilient identity is really, really important. And how do you find you instill that best in others? And do you have any examples of clients that have really surprised you with how much they've stepped into their identity?
You brought up something earlier, and I think it's when you're ready, right? Somebody has to be ready. You can tell a smoker, this is not good for you. It causes cancer. Studies show, science shows. That may make them start puffing away more and more. This is a good, right? I mean, they're going to go the opposite direction. So it's really being ready. The clients who are the most successful are also the most ready to step into that. Mm-hmm. They're done with the way their life was. They want to step in. They're ready to step in. And that takes courage and confidence. That's the C in the voice blueprint that I created, is courage and confidence. And it takes courage to step into that. You have to really say, I'm ready. I'm done with the way things were. I don't want to keep reliving my life every day with that same thing without having that passion within me to actually want to step out of that same old routine and step into that confidence, and you have to be ready for it. So the clients that, again, gain the most success are the ones who came really ready to achieve and accelerate where they were at, and they've seen great success. I call it the voice blueprint, and it is an acronym for vulnerability to empowerment, because it really takes everybody individually. We all have our own blueprint in life. Well, this is a voice blueprint, and everybody comes with their own. It's unique to them. So although we use the same modality with each client, it's going to be different because everybody is different. So they get their own blueprint because they come with their own blueprint.
Everyone has their own story. And so much of finding your voices, what is the story you're telling yourself? And what is the story you're meant to tell? What is the contribution you're made to give to this world? And when we find that in that alignment, it brings so much joy. But I think we also start attracting the right people and the right things. And all of a sudden, everything feels better because we're living our truth in that way. And then when we're doing that, others see it and they notice that difference. They notice that light and that glow from people that are living in alignment with themselves, and they want it. I don't think you always have to hit rock bottom in order to want to change. I think people think, well, when I hit rock bottom, I'll change, or like when something makes me change, or which often is health or a relationship or a mental health crisis or something of that nature. If you've waited that long, it's sometimes too late to fix some things, and it's no fun to live with any kind of regrets. Now, not that we can't turn everything around and make our mess our message and do great things, but you don't have to wait. If someone's listening, you don't have to wait to find your voice. You don't have to wait to live the life that you're looking for and to step into the identity that you see for yourself, that you feel deep down in your gut is right for yourself. I think the biggest thing is to realize it's going to be a process.
It is a process. I totally agree with that. And I was speaking to somebody even before we came on today, and it was actually was related to a post. I wrote an article on LinkedIn, and it was about your North Star, something I heard from a podcast on Mel Robbins, who I avid fan
Mel,
of.
yes.
I love, she's fantastic. And yeah, she's fantastic. But it was about your North Star, and that the interview that she had done was really with her daughter, who just graduated from USC, and finding, people who are like your North Star. But to me, your North Star is really finding your voice and coming home to who you already were and stepping into that.
Yes. Yes.
That
I
to
love
me
that
is
so much.
that voice, that inner knowing, not looking outside of yourself, but coming back home to you. We often, as you said it so elegantly, that it's outside, that I was looking for the outside validation for the inner self-worth. But we don't need to look for outside validation. You are worthy and deserving just where you are.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we don't often realize that because we scroll through social media. We see everybody else and what they're doing. And we're like, oh, that makes you feel worse that you're not there. And what about where you are? And what about your own journey? And giving yourself credit for how far you've come. But when we scroll through social, that's all we see is how far behind we feel we really are. But it's not about that. It's about your own journey, about coming home to you. Stop comparing. It's easy to compare.
Exactly. Comparison is the thief of joy for sure. It's not the
Yeah.
way we should measure ourselves. We're only in competition with ourselves. So the things we should be measuring are the things that we're aware of, how we feel, the stories we're telling ourselves and our thoughts, and then our daily practices. It comes back to some very, very basic things, not the big things, not the big house, not the big vacation, not the perfect family photo, not the perfect body. There's so much more to us as human beings than that. And we do have some of our culture moving in the right direction that way for sure. But the people that are successful in life are successful by their own definition of what success looks like for them, not by somebody else's definition of what success looks like. You could look at my own life as a divorced single mother with 3 kids right now and just go, oh, well, she failed. No, I don't look at it that way
Not at all.
at all. These children I have are a gift, and it's my responsibility to help them find their own identity in life. Was this
Find
part
their
of the
voice.
plan? Was this part of the plan? Well, maybe not my plan, but maybe a higher plan, because it's
Yes.
created more depth, more empathy in my life. And it's given me more motivation to become a new version of myself I would have never stepped into before. And it also helps me honor that everyone that is a part of our life, every interaction that we have is happening for a reason, and it's precious, and it helps us choose whether we're going to use our voice in love, which is the most powerful voice on earth that will never fail, or if we're going to use our voice in doubt or in fear, which takes us away from our core, takes us away from our center. I think when it comes down to it, we are in charge of the energy we bring into every situation and into every conversation. And there's so much power when we find our voice, because then we can make great impact for the positive and bring light and bring change that otherwise would not happen. And people are underestimating the power of one. You can be the one person in the room who changes everything, who brings the energy, who brings the joy. You can be the one person that smiled at that person that day and completely turn their day around. We're greatly underestimating what little things people can do. And we can't label or stereotype anyone. Uh,
I agree.
that's not right. And that's not the identity we should put on anyone. Go deeper, find out who they are, find out what their heart is, and we'll find out we have more than common than we do different. We all want the same things.
100%. And I agree. You said we're all human beings, right? But we end up being human doings.
Yes.
And that's what I was always doing, and never slowing down to be,
Yeah.
just be. And when you slow down to just be, you can get more in touch with yourself. You can find out more. Like, you said COVID. It's like it brought everybody back home because they were stuck at home.
Yeah.
But that's wrong to them. They were forced to take a look in the mirror. They were forced to really own their voice and what, maybe pivot and see what they really want. A lot of people left their 9 to 5 because they weren't able to go to the 9 to 5, and they had to see, what is it I love to do? What is it that I'm passionate about? How can I serve in a greater way? And how can I serve myself and
Mm-hmm.
be a better version of me? You said about competition, the only one we should be in competition is to be a better version of ourselves than we were yesterday, not to
Mm-hmm.
beat ourselves up of what we didn't do or should have done. Every day when you wake up, you have another opportunity to do
Yeah.
differently, to do better, to be better. You don't have to be an author of a book to rewrite your story or to edit it. It's not set in stone. Anytime you want to change and pivot, you can. If you went right, you could go left. If you went straight, you could, make a turn. You could do whatever you like to do or whatever you want to do. And if you don't know, sit down with yourself. Take some time and make some time. Get out in nature. Go for a walk. Just listen to nature and listen to your own heartbeat. Listen to your own voice. See what comes up. Pose the questions to yourself. What is it I really want? What is it I really desire in my life? Yes, we want to be happy. We want to be successful. What does that mean? What does success look like? What does happiness look like for you?
Yes.
It's going to be different for everybody.
And
Finding your
everybody
voice.
wants that now. We're all about that wholesome lifestyle. I mean, look, from being corporate and seen as super successful in that world, giving, 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 going, 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 to now look, I look at how calm and peaceful you are. And I know your story. I know how now you're creating the life that you want. And that's the real power of finding your own voice and your resilient identity and living your own truth is you go from life kind of happening to you or thinking life's just happening to you to life's happening for you. And guess what? You get to create it. You get to be the creator. It's like that funny meme that's out there that somebody's holding a jar of happiness and the other person's like, wait, where'd you find that? Where do I get that? I created it. That's the difference of
I
knowing
didn't see
your
that. That
voice
sounds beautiful. Yeah, I love
and
it.
not knowing your voice. Because your voice, I guess I'd like to compare it to an orchestra and an opera voice. Opera voices are very powerful. Well, do you know why? Well, we have the violin, it plays at a certain frequency. We have the drums that hit a certain frequency. Now, all of those are playing at all these different frequencies and together in harmony, in sync. It's beautiful, right? Well, and then you have this voice that goes over all of it. Why is that? Because the power of the human voice, when it is aligned correctly, and I love this analogy of like it's the soul speaking words uh, or doing things words can't express. Because when you support the voice and you breathe correctly, and you have to be in correct alignment in order to sing properly, and you take that deep breath and fill yourself up, and you send the breath through, and it has to pass your heart to go up to your throat to all these chambers in here, and there's 3 different chambers, and then to have the right shape here. But when those all hit and they're aligned, you're at a huge amount of frequency. You're hitting all the frequencies above and beyond all those instruments. And that is why an opera singer's voice can carry over and be heard through all of that. And so it's like when we find our voice, we can drown out the chaos of all the other voices because we are in complete, perfect alignment with our soul and our being. And really, like you said, then we're home.
I love that analogy, and I love the way you said it. It's interesting you speak about breath work. I interviewed a gentleman, Robert Littman, in my Finding Your Voice network recently. And he's got a book, The Breathable Body. And it's all about, and he doesn't really want to call it breath work because he said, which is true, it shouldn't be work to breathe.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
It's
I
not
like
something.
that. That's
Yeah,
so true.
I did too. And that's why I remembered it. It resonated because you don't say breath work. It's just breathing. It's the diaphragmic breathing. And we don't often do that. A lot of times I breathe from the chest
Mm-hmm.
instead of from the diaphragm. So you want to get that breath and bring it up through, you said, through the lungs, through the heart and out. And it's really powerful. So yeah, it's definitely something that it takes work. And I'm going to say work because you've got to work on that inner voice and that in yourself to not make it work, to not make it a
Mm-hmm.
working thing. Your body should be a natural kind of state, the homeostasis, rather than constantly working to breathe. And when you are in a state of homeostasis, that's when you're more in alignment.
And your journey is the key. You have to start with awareness. If you're not aware of when you're not feeling well and you are feeling well, like your body's not going to lie to you. We hold on to things for a reason. If we feel something in our throat, in our heart, in our leg, or our hip, our body is telling us something that we're not in alignment or we're not living our truth. So I think a lot of it is trusting our gut again, also, and taking that time, like you said, to slow down and be aware. And then we have to accept what is our situation. We have to love ourselves exactly as we are right now. Even if we want to be more, you do have to say, this is my voice right now, but I know I'm capable of more. And I love how you did that with the book. And now you're doing that with your work. I love that when people step into, I solve this problem. Now I want to go solve it for other people and bridge their gap and get them through the process faster. And that's the beautiful work that I love seeing with a lot of the people that I interact with in the coaching world and authors. It's because we have a message or we have a method we want to share to help people reach their own full potential and have their voice out in the world.
Tiffany, that's why I wrote the book. That's exactly why I wrote the book, because I knew what I had gone through. And first I said, well, who am I to write a book? And who cares about what I've done? I was like, why does it matter? And I'm like, you know what, Renee? It's not about you.
Mm.
It's not about you. There are people who do care because it pertains to them and their journey. So finding your voice, that's how I got the title. I'm like, wait a minute. Because yes, I lost it, but what does it really mean more than the physical loss, the metaphoric loss? Where in your life have you lost your voice? Was it through abuse? Was it maybe physical, emotional? Was it in your work environment? Was it in your home life? Through your parents or guardians, where you felt that your emotions were suppressed or repressed or always pushed down because you had to keep pushing them down since you didn't want to say anything, you didn't want to hurt anybody, you didn't want to make things worse, so you just kept them to yourself.
Yeah.
But meanwhile inside it's festering and festering, and you're not really living the life that you were meant to live. So finding your voice is coming back home to you. It's why it's like a workbook book, like I was telling you off line off camera, that it's after each chapter, there's short chapters. They have a takeaway section. And
Nice.
I leave pages, literally 3 to 4 line pages for people to date it and write. Maybe you don't fill up the whole thing right at first, but you date it the first day, you write it in, you put the date and where you answer, and then maybe a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, you go back, you're like, wow, or even a half a year later. Look how I answered that question then. Look how far I've come now. I forgot about that. I was going through that. You can see your own journey of finding your voice and what that means to you. That's my way of taking your hand and walking you back home to yourself.
Oh, it's so beautiful. We do have to count the wins along the way, and that journaling and keeping a record of where we are and how far we've come is very important for us to be able to have those touch points and see that we did take the steps. And if we did it once, we can do it again, and we'll keep going and we'll keep growing. Thank you for being here today. Do you have anything coming up? Where can people contact you so that they can work with you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Tiffany. I greatly appreciate it. I have a Facebook community. It's Finding Your Voice Network, FYVN. So please look that up. It's on my link tree, which I know you're going to post in the notes. And also, I do a 30-minute complimentary coaching consultation. So if anybody's interested in working together, please reach out to me. I would love to share our voices together and see if there's a fit. That would be an honor and a pleasure to work with you and see what we can do. It's one thing to go through what I did, but another thing to be able to grow through it and now take it and turn it to help others. And that's why I'm so grateful that I was able to do that with the Voice Blueprint and serve in a greater way. So the book is just the beginning. I have the magazine, Finding Your Voice Network magazine. It's a quarterly magazine. So we're happy to have that out there. If anybody's interested in finding out more about that as well, reach out. Just a lot of great things going on. So Tiffany, once again, I am grateful and gracious to be a guest on your show. And I want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you for being here. I love that. I feel such a kindred spirit to you, and you inspire me for more and what I could step into myself someday. So thank you for helping me find my voice and give me confidence. I did do a free consultation with Renee, and it was a powerful 30 minutes that we were together. So if you're looking for something effective, I can definitely back that. Renee is full of heart, and she knows what she's doing, and she's doing it for the right reasons. And those are rare gems these days, that people that are authentic and step up into their truth and in their voice. And we need more of that. So this is an important work. And if you want to work with me, I am officially now a high performance coach. I am certified. I'm so excited to have this 12-step process that really helps people step into a higher level of themselves. Maybe they found their voice, but they want to be louder in the world. They want to carry over the orchestra. Let me help you do that. You can reach me at my link below. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, also reach out to me. There's limited spots, but I always feel like the people that are meant to be here are the ones that show up. And I hope that you were blessed by this message today. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you for being here and being on this journey with us today.